Hey guys, welcome back to Human Condition. This video is another video in our psychology series. This one is Inside the Mind of a Psychopath. So this should be a pretty interesting one. Video will be talking about the different brain structures, the brain chemicals, and the thoughts of people who suffer from psychopathic tendencies. Also, I want to start off with saying I'm not roasting anyone who has psychopathic tendencies. Better understand people with psychopathic tendencies and understand why they do what they do. Off with neuroscience. This is pretty interesting, but I didn't know this. But people with psychopathic tendencies or psychopaths typically have different brain structures from the average person, which is kind of crazy. Pretty cool. Three core things are different in a person with a psychopath's mind, and that is the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, and the striatum. The prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, when I was researching it, said that the connection between them is not as strong. The prefrontal cortex is with self-control and decision-making, and the amygdala is emotion. So the lack of connection between them could suggest and explain why psychopaths have a hard time with self-control, potentially, and emotional regulation, controlling their emotions. Also, the striatum is bigger than normal, and this is linked with reward systems and motivation. So with a higher striatum, with a bigger striatum in the brain, they might be more impulsive and high reward seeking, and it might increase their dopamine levels in the brain. And also, the volume of certain areas in the brain seem to be smaller than the average person, potentially. So the thalamus, the insular cortex, and the basal ganglia, I think that's how you pronounce it, if I'm not mistaken, all seems to be smaller, which are all crucial in emotional regulation and emotion sensory. This can also explain why they have a hard time picking up on emotions and feelings of others, potentially. And finally, the white fibers, the white matter in the brain, the white fibers that help connect emotional lines to each other in the brain are weaker, and that's also another reason why emotional sensory information tends to get messed up in psychopaths' minds, potentially. Also, so those are the five main reasons on why psychopathic neuroscience is and brain structure is different from the average person. Prefrontal cortex, amygdala, striatum, white matter in the brain, and lower volume in the lower volume in certain areas of the brain all contribute to a harder time with emotional sensory information, which I thought was pretty interesting. I didn't know that. It's pretty cool to think, or pretty interesting to see that how a person who suffers from psychopathic tendencies has different brain structure than the average person without psychopathic tendencies. It's pretty interesting to see. Second part are the three main topics to understand their behavioral aspects. After first was the neuroscience and the five main topics that caused brain functions that caused the predisposition to psychopathy. However, there's also behavioral manifestations of it. That we'll talk about when I was researching it. Three main things that key behavioral traits that psychopaths have typically are someone who has these traits, tendencies, and that is exploitive nature, disregard for norms, and criminality. So there's a higher likelihood of people that are psychopaths to sadly commit crime due to physiological brain structures, genes, but also environment to become a full-blown psychopath, potentially. And three main behavioral expressions of this is exploitive nature. Number one, this means that they will try to take advantage of people and not really feel as much. Worst case scenario, not always. Not all psychopaths exploit people and take advantage. Sadly, also do because they have a harder time with empathy and emotions and understanding other people's feelings, and their desire, personal drive, and motivations are a lot higher than the average person, potentially due to increased striatum and higher levels of dopamine in the brain than the average person, meaning impulsivity, an ability to pay attention, and an ability to feel emotions thoroughly because they're so distracted by their own goals, usually. Disregard for norms. This being said, they get into trouble a lot with other people in arguments, the law, and everything, all types of things, because they push boundaries very often. But also, on a positive note, if this is used constructively, they can be, um, and morally, they can be very good business people and successful in careers because they're so motivated and determined for their goals in a positive way. And the final thing is criminality. The sad reality, if someone who has psychopathic tendencies has a bad environment growing up, it might lead to becoming a full-blown psychopath. And this has a very high chance of becoming criminality. And usually psychopaths aren't as emotional, so it's not like aggressive crime, at least in my opinion. But more so manipulative crime and being like crime bosses, because they're so manipulative and calculating and very smart. They can become criminal bosses because of their very good ability to be logical, and the lack of emotional regulation and empathy can make them do very harsh jobs that the average person might not be able to do when becoming a criminal, and that might be different from a sociopath, in my opinion. Also, this last part is just my view on psychopathy and how I came up with this idea of this video. Honestly, I first started thinking about this when I was watching the TV show Dexter. Pretty fire show. Highly recommend if you can handle a dark humor and a little bit of blood. Pretty fire show, Dexter. And I was thinking, it's kind of sad because, in the show, he's kind of brutal and harsh to people. It's like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. He's kind of brutal and harsh to people, but he seems to be so sociable, not a little awkward, in a good way, but a little awkward but like nice. But he's hiding it like a beast inside. It's like really sad, and I was like, dang. And then I was trying to figure out, do psychopaths have emotions? And a lot of people argue that no, but I think yes, they have emotions, but it's repressed emotions. It's from trauma. So, for example, in the case of Dexter, this is just one person. It's a TV show, so this might not be accurate of all people who suffer from psychopathic tendencies. It's obviously a lot of other things that cause it. However, in my opinion, a big portion is environment and trauma that make people have psychopathic tendencies turn into psychopaths. And the trauma that he causes repressed emotions, and these repressed emotions are actually guiding them. So I wouldn't, because psychopaths can't be completely emotionless, because emotion makes us do our actions. Like, without emotions, you wouldn't ever do anything. So the aggressive nature of psychopaths aren't due to a lack of emotion. It's just a not understanding what emotions they are feeling. It's a lack of understanding of one's emotions that causes people to become people with psychopathic tendencies to become psychopaths. It's not feeling anything, but not understanding what they feel. And if they were to have deep therapy, obviously it can't change the brain structures and the brain chemicals in the brain, but unravel what their deep emotional thing that's guiding them to have aggressive tendencies. It's probably some form of compensation deep down for something bad that they felt like they had no power over. It's more of a, maybe not all psychopaths and not all people with psychopathic tendencies become psychopaths. They can be good, nice people that have this. But if they do have aggression, it's probably a deep repressed emotion that they don't understand why they feel the way they do. And it comes from a power complex of feeling not powerful, so they overcompensate by being aggressive and powerful over other people, in my opinion. I could be wrong. So, in case you've ever seen the show Dexter, that's my analysis of why he does what he does. It's a power complex and compensation, but could also be applied to people who become full-blown psychopaths from psychopathic tendencies. So yeah, in conclusion, inside the mind of psychopaths don't always people with psychopathic tendencies aren't always going to become psychopaths, and they can actually become, if used correctly, the different neurobiology, um, genes, and environment can all be used constructively to actually make them be very good at whatever they put their mind to, because they're so goal directed, and if they act like they feel emotions, they can be very goal driven and achieve their goals and still care about other people's feelings and act empathetic. Be very successful people without becoming full-blown psychopaths. And a positive note, if used constructively, if the environment raised constructively, they become very highly driven and successful people potentially. Negatively, if not raised constructively, they can become crime bosses, very meticulous criminals who think things out because they have an aggressive emotional state, but they don't know why they feel angry. But yeah, I hope you guys liked this video, Inside the Mind of a Psychopath. Again, I hope I didn't unintentionally roast anyone's psychopathic tendencies. And just because someone has psychopathic tendencies doesn't mean they'll become a full-blown psychopath in the negative connotation way. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.